A white woman's prejudice sparks a confrontation on a plane, only to unravel when the black man she targets reveals his true identity. The cabin of Flight 432 pulsed with the restless hum of travelers stowing bags and claiming seats. David Carter, his presence quiet yet commanding, wove through the crowd. A soft, "Pardon me," escaping his lips as he reached his seat by the emergency exit. His steady gaze hinted at a story untold, his calm a shield against the chaos. Across the aisle, Susan Bennett's fingers clenched her magazine, its pages a blur. She'd zeroed in on David the instant he boarded, his unruffled demeanor sparking unease. Something about him, his precise movements, his quick glance at his bag, lit a fuse in her gut. Her pulse thrummed, suspicion coiling tight as she pretended to scan the words before her. "Excuse me," she hissed, her voice taut, flagging down Emma, the flight attendant. Emma paused, her smile warm but practiced. "Yes, ma'am. How may I assist you?" Susan's eyes flicked to David, now engrossed in a book with unsettling ease. "That man by the exit," she whispered, leaning closer. "Is it safe to have someone like him there?" Emma's gaze drifted to David, who sat absorbed, unaware of the scrutiny. Her smile held firm. "Rest assured, ma'am, every passenger has cleared security. Our seating meets all safety standards." Susan's lips tightened, her unease flaring. "With all you hear on the news, shouldn't we be more careful?" she pressed, her tone sharp with urgency. Emma's eyes flickered with a hint of steel, though her courtesy never wavered. "If you have specific concerns, please share them. We're here for everyone's comfort." With a nod, she glided down the aisle, leaving Susan's suspicions to fester. Susan watched her go, frustration sparking in her chest. Why was no one listening? Her gaze snapped back to David, who'd set his book aside to rummage in his bag. Her mind raced. What was he hiding? Her fingers twitched against the armrest, every nerve screaming that danger lurked just rows away. David, oblivious to the stares, pulled out a small vial of medication, checked its label, and slipped it back into his bag. A wave of calm settled over him, easing the weight of a grueling week. He returned to his book, the cabin's hum a soothing backdrop, unaware of the storm brewing behind him. Emma swept down the aisle, her pre-flight checks brisk. At the galley, she caught the eye of her colleague, Mark. Leaning in, she murmured, "Watch seat 18C. The woman in 22A's got a bad vibe about him." Mark nodded, his brow furrowing. "Got it. What's her deal?" Emma shrugged, masking her unease. "Nothing solid, just a hunch." Years of flights had honed her instincts for trouble, but this felt too vague to pin down. Susan shifted in her seat, her eyes narrowing as David's calm fueled her distrust. The engines roared louder, signaling takeoff. David tucked his book away, his gaze drifting to the window, serene as a still lake. Susan's mind, though, churned with dread. Her grip on the armrests tightened, her heart pounding with a nameless fear. As the plane surged down the runway, Susan leaned back, her eyes never leaving David. If no one else would act, she'd have to take charge. The plane leveled off, and the captain's voice crackled over the intercom, welcoming passengers and outlining the flight to Chicago. The seatbelt sign chimed off, and the cabin settled into a rhythm. Laptops hummed, screens flickered, books rustled. Flight attendants wove through the aisles, trays clinking with drinks. David eased back, the clouds outside his window a fleeting escape. The tension in his shoulders melted. He unzipped his bag, retrieving a water bottle, and caught Susan's stare in his peripheral vision. A flicker of curiosity crossed his mind, but he brushed it off, assuming it was just a stray glance. Susan's unease deepened. David's careful zipping of his bag, his deliberate check of its contents, screamed suspicion. She scanned the cabin, passengers lost in their own worlds, blind to the threat she saw. Her resolve hardened. She signaled Emma, who approached, her smile unwavering. "Yes, ma'am. Need something?" Emma asked, her tone light. Susan leaned in, her whisper sharp. "That guy by the exit. I've been watching him. He's obsessive with that bag, like he's hiding something. You need to check it." Emma glanced at David, then back, her expression steady. "I hear you, ma'am, but we can't search bags without cause. He's done nothing wrong, and his behavior seems normal." Susan's face tightened. Normal? People like him play normal until it's too late. You see it on the news. What if he's got something dangerous? Emma's training held her composure. "Security cleared everyone, ma'am. Try to relax. Enjoy the flight. If you see anything specific, let us know." Susan huffed, arms crossing. "You'll regret ignoring this," she muttered. Emma caught the words but let them slide, nodding politely before moving on. Her experience screamed caution. This wasn't just nerves. Susan's intensity felt volatile. Passing David's seat, Emma cast a quick glance. He looked up, their eyes meeting briefly. Her smile was professional, his nod polite. The moment passed, but Susan's urgency gnawed at her. She'd seen nervous passengers before, but this felt different. Susan stewed, her frustration boiling as passengers around her ignored her warnings. She leaned toward her neighbor, a middle-aged woman buried in a magazine. "Excuse me," she whispered. "That guy by the exit. Doesn't he seem off?" The woman glanced up, startled, then at David, who was back in his book. "I don't know," she said, hesitant. "He looks fine." "What's wrong?" Susan's irritation flared. "He's been shady since we boarded, always checking his bag. I told the attendant, but they don't care. Better safe than sorry, right?" The woman peeked at David again. "Maybe. But the crew would handle it if it was serious. It's probably nothing." She returned to her magazine, dismissing Susan's plea. Susan's jaw clenched. If no one else saw the danger, she'd watch him herself. Her eyes locked on David, tracking every move, waiting for a slip to prove her right. David, lost in his book, sipped his water, the plane's hum a steady comfort. His thoughts drifted to his Chicago meeting, a case that weighed heavy. He didn't sense the storm of suspicion brewing rose behind, ready to erupt. Susan's fears grew, fueled by every news story she'd ever seen. Her pulse raced, her certainty of danger unshakable. She'd stay vigilant, ready to act at the slightest provocation. The cabin of Flight 432 buzzed with the soft clatter of a long flight. Engines droning, pages turning, drinks clinking. Most passengers relaxed, lost in screens or sleep. But Susan's gaze burned into David, her suspicion a living thing. Each time he touched his bag, her heart lurched, her mind screaming he was hiding something. She couldn't stay silent. Leaning to the elderly man beside her, she whispered, "Have you seen that guy by the exit? He's constantly checking his bag. Suspicious, right?" The man peered over his crossword, squinting at David, then shrugged. "Haven't noticed anything odd. Probably nothing." His focus returned to his puzzle, leaving Susan fuming. How could they be so blind? She scanned the cabin, desperate for an ally. Her eyes landed on a young woman across the aisle, watching David with mild curiosity. "Excuse me," Susan murmured. "That man by the exit. He's acting strange, isn't he?" The woman glanced over, then back, her expression polite but distant. "I don't know. He's just reading, I think." "Is something wrong?" Susan's patience snapped. "Yes. He's been weird since we boarded, always checking his bag like it's dangerous. I told the attendant. But no one's doing anything." The woman shifted, uneasy. "Maybe leave it to the crew. They're trained for this, aren't they?" Susan's voice climbed, drawing eyes. "What if it's too late? What if we could have stopped something?" Her words rang with conviction, seeking support. Passengers glanced at David, who remained oblivious, his posture relaxed. Emma, sensing the ripple of attention, hurried to Susan's seat, her voice low but firm. "Ma'am, please keep it down. You're disturbing others. What's the issue?" Susan pointed at David, her face set. "I've told you, he's suspicious. He's obsessed with that bag. He's planning something, I know it." Emma exhaled, her professionalism unwavering. "Ma'am, we've discussed this. We need evidence to act. Please calm down, we're watching the situation." Susan's voice cut through the cabin. "Watching? You're waiting for disaster. That's not enough." Murmurs spread, some passengers uneasy, others annoyed. David looked up, sensing the shift, his eyes meeting Susan's in a fleeting, puzzled glance. Emma saw the growing tension and moved to quell it. "Ma'am, your concerns are noted, but raising your voice won't help. Please lower it, or I'll need to involve the captain." Susan shot to her feet, her face flushed. "You don't get it. You're all blind? I won't sit here while something's wrong." Her voice sliced through the cabin's hum, heads turned, whispers swelling. Emma touched Susan's arm, guiding her back. "Ma'am, please sit. Let's handle this calmly." Susan shook her off, pointing at David. "He's hiding something. Search his bag now." David's eyes widened, but he stayed composed, closing his book. His voice was even, steady. "Ma'am, there's nothing dangerous in my bag. I'm just trying to fly in peace like you." Susan's eyes blazed. "Peace? You think we'll buy that? What's in there?" Emma stepped between them, her tone firm. "Enough. Ma'am, return to your seat. Sir, thank you for your patience." To the cabin, she added, "Everyone, please stay calm. There's no cause for alarm." The murmurs grew, and Emma knew she had to act fast. David sat still, his expression unreadable, though the air crackled around him. He knew engaging would only worsen things. He opened his book, forcing focus, his calm a stark contrast to the chaos. Emma reached the galley, her heart racing, and grabbed the intercom to brief the captain. Glancing back, she saw David's calm and Susan's seething glare. This flight was far from over. The cabin simmered with tension, passengers trading nervous glances or feigning focus on their screens. Susan sat, her anger a coiled spring, certain she was the only one seeing the truth. David's serenity only fueled her rage. How could he be so composed if he wasn't hiding something? David felt her stare, a weight pressing against him. Glancing up, he caught her narrowed eyes, her jaw set in conviction. He'd seen that look before, fear masquerading as certainty. Sighing, he returned to his book, bracing for worse. Susan's restraint shattered. She unbuckled her seatbelt and marched toward David, her steps sharp, purposeful. Passengers watched, the cabin's hum fading. David looked up, setting his book down, his eyes steady. "You!" Susan's voice rang out, a blade cutting the air. "Open that bag right now!" Her finger jabbed toward him, trembling with fury. David's tone stayed calm. "Ma'am, my bag's none of your concern. Please sit. You're making a scene." Emma rushed over, her face tight with concern. "Ma'am, return to your seat now. You're upsetting everyone." Susan shoved Emma's hand away, her focus locked on David. "I won't sit until he shows us. He's hiding something dangerous, and you're all too blind to see it." David glanced at Emma, her eyes betraying her worry. He spoke softly, controlled. "Ma'am, my bag holds personal items. There's no threat here, I swear." Susan's laugh was sharp, bitter. "Swear? You think we'll trust you? I've watched you since we boarded, checking that bag like you're scared it'll spill your secrets." Emma planted herself between them, her voice steely. "That's enough. Ma'am, sit down, or I'll call the captain." Passengers craned their necks, whispers buzzing. David sat still, his hands on his book, knowing any move could escalate things. Susan ignored Emma, her voice rising. "If you won't act, I'll make sure everyone knows." Her face burned with defiance. Emma softened her tone, almost pleading to David. "Sir, I'm sorry, but could you show her the bag? It might calm things down." David met Emma's gaze, then Susan's scowl. He nodded slowly. "If it keeps the peace." He unzipped his bag, pulling out a clear case of medication, holding it up. "This is it," he said, his voice steady. "Medication for a heart condition, that's all." Emma exhaled, relieved. "See, ma'am? Nothing dangerous. Let's move on." Susan's face twisted, disbelief etched in every line. "No, that's not everything. You're lying." David's calm held. "Ma'am, I'm telling the truth. Please sit." Susan's eyes darted, seeking allies. "Can't you see he's tricking us? We need to search him properly." Emma's voice hardened. "Ma'am, sit now, or I'll take further steps." Susan lunged for the bag, but David caught her wrist, his grip firm yet gentle. "Please, don't do this. There's no need." Susan yanked free, her eyes wild. "You're all protecting him." Her voice cracked, hysteria creeping in. Emma signaled another attendant. "Ma'am, come with us to the back. We need to talk." Susan froze, glancing at the staring passengers, some pitying, others judging. Her conviction wavered, but her fear held. Slowly, she followed, her steps heavy, her glare still fixed on David. David watched her go, the cabin's eyes heavy on him. He picked up his book, forcing himself to read, though the words blurred. He tuned out the whispers, his calm a shield. Emma glanced back, nodding slightly in thanks. David returned the nod, a silent pact amid the tension. The storm had paused, but it wasn't over. He turned the page, the plane slicing through the clouds toward Chicago. The cabin hung heavy with unease, like a taut wire ready to snap. Passengers settled back, but glances darted toward Susan, now sequestered at the rear. Whispers buzzed, laced with curiosity and concern. David felt the stares, but kept his eyes on his book, his composure a quiet defiance. At the back, Susan sat in a crew seat, arms crossed, her face a mask of fury. Emma stood nearby, her voice soft but firm, trying to pierce Susan's resolve. "I'm telling you, he's lying!" Susan spat, her words venomous. "People like him always have a story." Emma's tone stayed soothing. "Ma'am, Mr. Carter showed us his medication. There's no threat. Please calm down. Your actions are scaring others." Susan's eyes blazed. "You don't see it. He's dangerous, and if you won't act, I will." Emma sighed, her patience thinning. She nodded to Mark, stationed nearby. "Ma'am, we need you calm. Another outburst, and will involve law enforcement on landing." Susan's eyes widened, but she sank back, muttering. Emma left Mark to watch her and moved down the aisle, reassuring passengers with practiced smiles. She caught their quick glances away, their pretense of disinterest. Stopping by David, she spoke softly. "Mr. Carter, I'm sorry for this. Need anything?" David shook his head. "No, thanks. These things happen. You're handling it well." Emma leaned closer, her voice barely audible. "Just making sure we're clear. Let us know if you need anything. We're here for your safety, too." David nodded, her sincerity grounding him. "I just want to reach Chicago without more trouble." Emma offered a small smile and continued her rounds. David tried to focus on his book, but the cabin's tension clung like damp air. He felt the whispers, the eyes, and knew he had to act to ease the unease. Taking a deep breath, he stood, setting his book aside. He pulled out his badge, a move he rarely made, and walked to Emma's side. His voice carried, calm but firm. "May I have your attention, please?" The cabin stilled, eyes turning to him. David held up his badge, its glint unmistakable. I'm Detective David Carter, Boston Police Department. Undercover. The medication in my bag is for a heart condition. I'm sorry for any concern, but there's no danger here." Silence gripped the cabin, then eased as passengers exhaled, some nodding, others wide-eyed. David glanced at Emma, who nodded gratefully, his gesture a lifeline. But Susan's voice shattered the calm, shrill from the back. "He's lying. It's a cover. How do we know that badge isn't fake?" David turned, his expression steady. "Ma'am, you can verify my ID with my department. The number's on the badge. I'm just doing my job, trying to get to Chicago safely." Susan's face burned. "No, it's a trick! You can't fool me!" The tension spiked. David saw the panic in her eyes, her fear unyielding. He softened his tone. "Ma'am, I get that you're scared, but there's nothing to fear from me. Let's finish this flight peacefully. Authorities can check everything when we land." Susan shook her head, her breath ragged. "No, I won't wait. I won't let you." Her words faltered, her resolve fortunately. She sank back, trembling but silent, her eyes darting among the passengers' mixed gazes, some concerned, others disapproving. Emma stepped in, her voice firm. "Ma'am, sit down. We've verified Mr. Carter. Everything's under control." Susan slumped, her fight fading under the weight of isolation. David returned to his seat, ignoring the lingering stares. He opened his book, but his mind stayed sharp, alert to every rustle around him. The cabin quieted, passengers returning to their distractions, though the air remained charged. Emma patrolled the aisles, her eyes flicking between David and Susan, ready for any spark. Susan sat, pale and trembling, her anger a quiet ember. She felt the cabin's judgment, their trust in David a betrayal. Alone, she could only wait, her fear a heavy shadow. David read on, his calm a fortress. He knew the storm might flare again, but for now he held steady, his focus a lifeline. Hours remained, and he was ready. The cabin of Flight 432 simmered, the earlier clash lingering like a bruise. Passengers glanced warily at David, their curiosity veiled. At the back, Susan seethed, her whispers low, her conviction unshaken. The hum of conversation stayed hushed, as if one wrong word could reignite the fire. Emma moved with purpose, her smiles a balm for frayed nerves. She felt the undercurrent of unease radiating from Susan, a ripple threatening to swell. Keeping the peace was her mission, and she wouldn't falter. Mark stood guard near Susan, her rigid posture and clenched fists a warning. He'd handled tough passengers, but her intensity unnerved him. He leaned to Emma, his voice low. "She's still on edge. I don't think she'll settle." Emma nodded, her eyes on Susan. "We can't let her spark again. Stay with her. Keep her calm. I'll check with the captain." Mark agreed, his gaze fixed on Susan's restless hands. Emma slipped into the cockpit, where Captain Michael Thompson turned, his face grave. "What's the situation, Emma?" "We've contained it for now," she said. "But Susan's not buying Carter's story, even with his badge. She's volatile. I'm worried she'll try something." Thompson's brow furrowed. "Another outburst could panic the cabin. If needed, we'll restrain her for safety." Emma nodded, the weight of the call heavy. "We'll avoid it if we can. But we're ready. Mark's with her." "Keep me posted," Thompson said. "If it escalates, we'll alert air traffic control and have security ready on landing." Emma returned to the cabin, her mind spinning with plans. Susan had to stay calm. She approached Mark, who stood vigilant. Susan looked up, her eyes flashing. "Here to admit I'm right," she snapped. Emma's voice stayed gentle. "No, ma'am. Just ensuring you're okay." "We need everyone calm to land safely." Susan's jaw tightened. "Calm? You want me to ignore that man's plan? I won't fall for his lies." Emma held her gaze. "Mr. Carter's credentials are verified. Your actions are the concern now. Stay seated, or we'll have to restrain you." Susan's eyes widened. "Restrain me? I'm protecting us all." Emma's tone was firm. "We're responsible for everyone's safety. One more disruption, and we act. Please, stay calm." Susan glared but leaned back, her voice a hiss. "Fine. But if something happens, it's on you." Emma nodded, relieved for the moment. She signaled Mark to stay alert and resumed her rounds, her presence a steadying force. The cabin's tension eased, but the threat lingered. David watched Emma approach, his senses sharp. He saw the strain in her eyes, her glances toward Susan. "How's it back there?" he asked quietly. Emma sighed. "She's upset, but seated. We're watching her. I'm sorry for the trouble." David nodded. "You're doing great. Let me know if I can help." Emma smiled faintly. "Just stay calm. It helps." David returned to his book, but the cabin's pulse kept him alert. He felt the eyes, the whispers, and knew he'd need to stay vigilant. Susan sat rigid, her mind a storm. She couldn't fathom their trust in David, their blindness to her truth. Her anger simmered, but she held back, knowing another move would trap her. Mark watched, his stance ready, her every twitch a signal. Time crawled, the flight a tense dance. Emma patrolled, her eyes sharp, balancing calm and caution. She whispered to Mark, "We're okay for now. Keep watching." Mark nodded, his focus unwavering. Emma moved on, her resolve the thread holding the cabin together. The plane soared on, each passenger praying for peace. The seatbelt sign pinged, and Captain Thompson's voice filled the cabin, smooth and steady, announcing their descent into Chicago. Passengers stirred, stretching and packing, the end of the journey loosening the cabin's knot of tension. David felt the plane dip, his book closing with a soft thud. He secured his medication in his bag, glancing toward Susan, still rigid under Mark's watch. Her darting eyes betrayed her unrest, but she stayed silent. Emma made a final sweep, ensuring seatbelts were fastened. She paused by David, her smile warm. "Almost there. Thanks for your patience." David nodded. "No more drama, I hope. You've been stellar." Emma's nod was grateful. Fingers crossed for a quiet landing. She moved on, but Mark's signal stopped her. "Susan's muttering again," he whispered. "She's wound tight." Emma knelt beside Susan, her voice soft. "Ma'am, we're landing soon. Stay calm and seated, please." Susan's eyes snapped to her whisper harsh. "This isn't over. I won't let him walk away. You'll see." Emma forced a smile, her gut tightening. "Everything will be handled on the ground. Just stay put." Susan said nothing, her silence heavy. Emma rose, signaling Mark to stay vigilant, and took her station, hoping for a smooth end. The plane touched down, a collective exhale rippling through the cabin. Seatbelts clicked open, bags rustled. David stayed seated, patient as passengers stood, eager to escape. "Ladies and gentlemen," Thompson's voice boomed. "Welcome to Chicago. Please stay seated until we're at the gate. Thank you for your cooperation." David watched the airport crew through his window, the plane taxiing smoothly. Emma approached, her face calm but focused. "Security's waiting at the gate," she said softly. David nodded. "Good call. Thanks." The seatbelt sign flicked off, and passengers surged to their feet. Emma and Mark flanked Susan, ready for trouble. David lingered, letting the crowd thin. The cabin door swung open, and 2 uniformed security officers stepped in. Emma pointed them to Susan. The taller officer, his voice low and steady, approached her. "Ma'am, we need you to come with us to discuss the flight incident." Susan's eyes widened, her head shaking. "No, I did nothing wrong. Arrest him." She jabbed a finger toward David. The officer stayed calm. "We just need to talk. Please come with us." Susan stood. her voice rising. "You're all protecting him. I'm the only one who sees it." The second officer, a woman with a firm grip, took Susan's arm. "Ma'am, calm down. Let's sort this out." Susan's voice cracked, shrill. "This isn't right." The officers guided her out, her protests echoing. Passengers watched, some stunned, others relieved. Emma followed, ensuring control. David sat, the cabin's eyes heavy, but he focused on the officer's steady handling. Emma returned, her face weary but composed. "She's in a holding area for questioning," she said. "Authorities are fully briefed." David nodded. "You've been amazing." "Thank you." Emma's smile was faint. "Just my job. Glad we avoided worse." As the cabin emptied, David stood, grabbing his bag. He moved down the aisle, the tension in his shoulders easing. He nodded to Emma one last time, then stepped into the jet bridge, the cool air a sharp relief. In the terminal, he glimpsed Susan, still arguing as security led her away, her voice fading. David turned toward baggage claim, his steps measured, the flight's weight lingering. The day replayed in his mind, but he'd handled it as best he could. Worse moments had tested him, yet the sting of false accusation lingered. At baggage claim, he exhaled, ready to move on. Behind him, Flight 432's passengers dispersed, their murmurs soft, some glancing where Susan had gone. The airport's bustle swallowed the flight's tension, replaced by the thrill of a new city. For David, the day wasn't done. Reports, questions, reflections awaited. But for now, the airport's hum grounded him, a reminder that life pressed on, even through conflict's shadow. As he neared the exit, resolve settled in. The day had challenged him, but he'd faced it with dignity. In the end, that was enough.